most of what we do is, well, it's commercial financing, but it's really on residential asset classes. And that's mainly because we feel confident in residential asset classes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Get Diversified. I am your host today, Jacqueline Landry, and I am super, super excited to be here today. You saw I said two supers. I have Ruben Izgelov. So let me tell you a little bit about Ruben. So Ruben is a seasoned real estate entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in acquisitions, flipping, development, financing, and building a portfolio exceeding $500 million. He is the co-founder and managing partner of WeLend, a tech-driven private lender that funded over 500 million in property loans 2018, offering fast and affordable capital to real estate investors. His experience in navigating real estate financing, shaped by the 2009 financial crisis, inspired him to modernize private lending. Ruben is also the co-founder of States Capital, a private debt fund that enables accredited investors to participate in real estate-backed lending while mitigating risk. His innovative approach and deep industry knowledge positions him as a leader in shaping the future of real estate finance. So, Ruben, welcome to the show.
I appreciate that. We're going to have to shorten that for you guys in the future. I mean, that was long.
Hey, wait, so I took what they wrote and I put that in ChatGPT and I said, summarize it for me.
Good. So it was longer than what you just had. Oh
So
my goodness.
it was way longer than that. So, Ruben, welcome to the show. Did I miss anything in that introduction?
No, you did an amazing job, and I really appreciate it, Jacqueline. It's a pleasure to be here. I know you and I have been trying to get our schedules to kind of match for some time, so this is long overdue, but it's a pleasure to finally be here in front of you.
Fantastic. So I know we had tons of different topics that we can choose today, but here's the one that I want to talk about: making real estate private lending accessible to all investors. And let me tell you why I picked that one. So recently, a lot of our investors and folks that are watching on social media, like, Jackie, man, how can I get into this game? And I tell them our story about how we use private lending to purchase all of our smaller multifamily. And then it just inspires them, right? So that's near and dear to my heart. So let's just start off by talking about what is private lending, because, some of the listeners and viewers may not be knowledgeable of what private lending is.
Sure. So happy to kind of get into that as well as other topics. But to answer your question, private lending is essentially alternative lending, right? There are a number of ways you can get an acquisition or a deal financed, right? First thing is you go to friends and family and you kind of have them invest into your real estate deals. But, not always can you raise the full amount that you need to be able to execute on the deals. So then you have to go to a lender, right? There's a number of different lenders that exist. There could be agency lenders. There could be your local banks, right? The community banks that that you drive by every single day on your way to Starbucks or what have you from your home. But there's also private lenders, right? It could be a small, mom and pop shop that could basically have one investor who's using their own personal money to diversify their investments and invest into deals through debt. Or it could be groups like ours who have actually kind of, you could say, went from Main Street to kind of Wall Street, right? By raising money from significant groups, friends and family, and then being able to use that money to be able to go out there and start financing the deals. Now, the question really becomes, well, Ruben, if I was to get a deal, I raise some money from friends and family to be able to bring in equity, but I need to get some debt on the deal that I'm buying. Why would I go to a private lender versus an institutional lender like Chase Bank or a local bank that I drive by on my way to Starbucks every single day, right? And I say that jokingly, but it's a common question that gets asked. Well, the main reason is, for one, we'll finance deals much quicker than a conventional bank would, right? Sometimes, and I speak with my own personal experience, it could take 90 days for you to get financing on an acquisition. And sometimes we, as real estate investors, developers, we don't have 90 days, right? We need to execute, and we need to execute within less than and under 30 days, sometimes even less than that. That's one. Two, it could be a deal that a bank is not going to finance, right? It could be missing a roof. It could be, uninhabitable. It could be a property that is really, really physically, financially distressed, and the banks just don't like those type of assets, right? So investors come to us in those alternatives because they know that we'll be able to, one, execute quicker, and two, finance the type of deals that other banks would not. Now, obviously, that comes at a premium. Usually, it's about, I would say, 3 to 5 points higher on an annualized basis. But hey, it's better than not being able to execute on a deal in its entirety, right? So our investors, our borrowers, our clients, they use us as a bridge. They use us as a conduit to be able to acquire the property or reposition it, whether it's for a resale or a refinance, and ultimately have an exit within 8 to 11 months.
Yeah. I mean, so many people ask us, well, Jackie, why would you buy all of your properties using private funding? It's 12%, it's 13%, it's 14%. I said, so what? I said, it's a short amount of time. And I don't think you've touched upon the rehab costs. Yeah. So we love that most private lenders will fund 100% of the rehab costs. And that doesn't have to, affect my bottom line, at least the bottom line. Right.
Totally, and I totally agree with you there. I mean, look, banks don't like, and when I say banks, I mean the traditional banks, right? Agency lenders, they usually don't provide financing for the construction. So, our clients, they're buying physically and financially distressed properties. There's always a capex involved, right? Capital expenditures in terms of renovations of some sort. So, essentially, they need that additional financing to be able to finance it. Now, to your point of it not affecting your bottom line, well, the way in which most private lenders, including ourselves, structure the financing for the construction is like it's like a credit card. It's like a warehouse line, right? You pull, you pay for what you pull, you pay for what you use. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you're buying a property that needs $200,000 in renovations. We'll provide you that $200,000 in the reno, aside for the purchase money. We'll provide you that as well. But we'll provide you with $200,000 in construction. But that money comes as you do the work, which means that you're not really paying for it until you actually draw upon that construction money.
I love that. So we've dealt with some private lenders that put that cost in the loan amount, and your loan amount is that use it or not use it. So I love that because it saves us some money, especially if we come in under budget on our capex costs, then we're not paying for something that we're not using.
Exactly. It's a game changer. It really is.
So what markets are you in, Ruben? Because we to use you going forward. Like how small do you go? What's your typical loan amount? What kind of assets do you like?
So we lend nationwide. No pun intended. We lend the company name, but we lend nationwide. Predominantly, we're in the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut area. So I would say kind of like the northern, northeast part of the US. But we really lend nationwide. I would say the three leading states, like I said, is New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And then we kind of go down to Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, the Midwest, so Texas and Alabama, and so on. So that's really our kind of like the core markets, right? As far as asset classes, we love financing multifamily 1 to 4 unit at mixed use properties. And that's really our core. We like on the mixed use properties for the residential to be at least 51% or greater. And the reason why is because, and if you notice, most of what we do is, well, it's commercial financing, but it's really on residential asset classes. And that's mainly because we feel confident in residential asset classes. And the main reasons that is because at the end of the day, you look at what's happening with office, you look at what may or may not be happening with retail, depending on what market you're in, because some markets retail right now is super hot. But depending on where you are, office and commercial properties, whether it's retail or office or what have you, are really kind of feeling the pitch. We see that there's a huge supply deficit when it comes down to residential. So that's why we like to focus on the 1 to 4 multifamily mixed use, because it's just much more of a resilient asset class. And we like to kind of sleep at night, right? I raise money from friends and family, and every penny that we deploy in debt, it's really as though it's our own money. We're significantly invested into our fund as well. But that's why we like to focus on a residential side, because again, friends and family money is being deployed and we like to sleep at night.
Fantastic. So what kind of neighborhoods is an absolute no for you guys? Do you not do C and D class? Like tell me a little bit about.
Sure. It's a good question. I don't want to point out any significant markets, because there's some markets that, we're shying away from with a 100-foot pole, right? And that's mainly because of all the fraud that's happening in those markets, right? We track all that data. I'm on the advisory council of the MPLA, the National Private Lenders Association, which kind of gives us a glimpse under the hood kind of view of a lot of other lenders and what they're feeling the pinch on. And there's a lot of, I would say, areas that we stay away from because of the fraud that happens in those neighborhoods, right? It could be a number of different type of frauds, but we try to stay away from those areas. The other area that we like to stay away from is really rural areas. And the main reason to that is because the market over there just doesn't move as quick as, say, our terms of the loans. The term of our loans on an average is, well, not average, but the term of our loans is about 12 months, which means that, the borrower has to finish the construction, has to get all the permits, all that ironed out, and ultimately sell the property within 12 months or refinance. In rural neighborhoods, they don't move as quick. So we try to stay away from those neighborhoods as well.
So one more question. This is just like a personal question when it comes to real estate investing. What do you do differently when you're appraising a property? Do you actually send an appraiser out there? Because appraisers can be night and day. Depending on what their mood is, they can value it at 100,000 or 150,000. I feel like appraisers are all over the board. And then we deal with other private lenders that have some kind of a mechanism and, I don't know, analytics that actually tell you if they want to invest in your deal or not. So what do you guys do at We Lend?
So it's a good question. I mean, look, in New York, New Jersey, and I would say some parts of Connecticut, we still use an appraisal on every single deal, right? Every single deal we fund and that we originate, we have an appraisal on. And I would say 98% of the time, the appraisal is done before we originate the deal. But in the New York and New Jersey area, I would say that we are so familiar and well versed in this community in these two states that we don't really need an appraisal. You tell us the address, you tell us the neighborhood, we kind of tell you what the property is going to be worth after the repairs. It also depends on what repairs you're doing to it. There is a lot of software out there that's been coming out that kind of give you a glimpse into what the properties are selling for, depending on the lot sizes, depending on how many floors are, if it's at a cape or not, 2 stories, 3 stories. It kind of gives you a good pinpoint of what the property values are. We like those tools. We still use those tools, but we still like to have an appraisal on the property. And the main reason why is, one, it kind of gives us a sense of security, right? Two, it allows us to be able to cross-check and double-check the asset classes, right? We want to see the inside of the property. We want to see what the comps are selling for. We want to be able to see what the neighborhood looks like, what the street looks like, what's across the street. A lot of times you can't really get a lot of that information through the softwares that are provided. They're improving, definitely are, but you can't really get that through the softwares. And we, being that we're, significantly invested through our friends and family, we want to be able to cross every T and dot every I. And an appraisal really kind of helps us do that. Aside from that, I mean, have I ever funded a deal without an appraisal? The answer is yes. Very small a likelihood, but the answer is yes, we have. But that's only because the borrowers have either one, invested or borrowed from us in the past. We know exactly how they've executed. We know exactly what their portfolio looks like. So if a borrower calls us on a Monday night and says, "Hey, Ruben, I need to close on a Tuesday, and this deal is in Florida," there's no way in hell that I can close on a Tuesday in less than 24 hours with an appraiser involved, right? So being that they're an returning borrower, being that we know who they are, they may be putting significant amount of money down. In that case, we may be able to do the deal without an appraisal, but we'll still have to do an appraisal past after the funding of the deal.
Okay, fantastic.
Jacqueline and Melvin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of Get Diversified. Please make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Finally, stop by our website and follow us on social media. Ciao for now. Make it a great day, and we'll see you next time. And remember, get diversified.